Yo, what are you doing? You're listening to the Bible Club. It's the damn Bible Club. Stupid! It's time for Bible! It's the Bible Club! What? Do you know who this is? Hey, welcome to the Non-Believer Bible Club. So, I've come into several books. For today's intro, I'm just going to share them with you because you know what? I'm excited about them. I'm excited learning about this stuff. First one, actually, let me qualify this. I was thinking to myself earlier today, this is a Bible club, but we're not just reading the Bible. This is a chance to talk about all kinds of different books. I've mentioned most of these before, but I'm just going to arrange them in a list and talk about them because I'm really excited about them. I'm holding this one. Has a nice sound on it. It's thick. The pages are thick. It's heavy. This is A History of Judaism by Martin Goodman. He is a professor of Jewish studies at the University of Oxford. Most of the stuff I'm able to find at the bookstore is all Christian stuff. And Christian is great, but that's New Testament. And we are Old Testament as Shiite right now. As interested as I am in Christianity, Judaism, the religion from which Christianity sprung, is the bedrock of this religion. And this book has been very helpful in organizing, even just through mentioning source documents, authors, events, sects, things like that to help me out and build that mental map of the world that eventually someone like Jesus or Jesus grew up in. Book number 2, or I should say books. I have a compendium of the 2 major works of Josephus. It's called The Works of Josephus and has both the War of the Jews and the Antiquities of the Jews. I'm going to read from the introduction because this actually provides some good information on Josephus. Flavius Josephus, born 37 AD, died circa 100. Year 100. What a time to be alive. He is the author of what has become for Christianity perhaps the most significant extra-biblical writings of the first century. His works are the principal source for the history of the Jews from the reign of Antiochus Epiphanes to the fall of Masada in 73 AD, and therefore are of incomparable value for determining the setting of late intertestamental and New Testament times. This Josephus was a priest, ended up fighting sort of begrudgingly on the Jewish side of the Jewish-Roman War. The Jews eventually lose, and Josephus eventually becomes a patron of Vespasian, who will become the emperor of Rome. And it's probably through this connection that he was able to even write these books. The Jews in that period knew their own history. The only reason these books survive today were because he was explaining this culture and history to the ruling class. Very fascinating, very informative. This is a literal first-hand account of Jewish culture from somebody who was there in the year 60. Crazy. Now, on the other side, we have Early Christian Doctrines, a book by J.N.D. Kelly, who is a principal of St. Edmund Hall, Oxford, England. I don't know if he's alive or not. He is acknowledged internationally as an authority on patristic Christian thought. Patristic meaning father. They're talking about the church fathers, the men who started the Catholic Church. And the book is, quote, highly recommended for every serious religious collection. I don't know. I'm just here to figure out what are the epics of this history. EPOCHS. Epics. So this is the Christian side of the History of Judaism by Martin Goodman. Dr. Kelly organizes an ocean of material by outlining the development of each doctrine in its historical context. He lucidly summarizes the genesis of Christian thought from the close of the Apostolic Age to the Council of Chalcedon in the 5th century, a time teeming with fresh and competing ideas. And this is right. It was a time teeming with fresh and competing ideas. The doctrines of the Trinity, the authority of the Bible and tradition, the nature of Christ. Fascinating topic, by the way. That was one of the things that I couldn't help but obsessively read about and get more and more interested in as I did so. Basically, there were many schisms in the early Christian church just because they couldn't agree how much of God there was in Jesus compared to the human, or vice versa. People were excommunicated or killed over this stuff. Salvation, original sin, and grace. This book is very light, but it's kind of thick. We're looking at like 500 pages. Doesn't look it though. And lastly, I'll throw in this very slim novel size. We're looking at the Confessions of Saint Augustine, or Augustinus. I know you're all like, oh, you all know Latin very well. I include this because I've been very attracted to this book for some reason. I started reading it on a plane, and it's just filled with Augustine's kind of self-analysis and philosophical exploration, but in this strange autobiographical, poetic kind of way, meant to investigate himself and how he eventually became a Christian. In the year 386, at the age of 31. They are called the Confessions because, as he explains, his youth was a time when he was very focused on getting laid, playing hooky, doing bad things. Reading from the back of the book, it was in a Milan garden that Augustine finally achieved the act of will to Christian conversion, which he compared to a lazy man in bed finally deciding it is time to get up and face the day. The beginning starts with him trying to figure out logically how to call upon God. Quote, "Grant me, Lord, to know and understand. Which comes first, to call upon you or to praise you, and whether knowing you precedes calling upon you, but who calls upon you when he does not know you? For an ignorant person might call upon someone else instead of the right one. But surely you may be called upon in prayer that you may be known. Yet how shall they call upon him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe without a preacher? They will praise the Lord who seek for him." That's Psalm 21:27. So he's also integrating the answers that he's getting from the Bible to these questions. In seeking him, they find him, and in finding, they will praise him. Lord, I would seek you. Calling upon you, and calling upon you is an act of believing in you. That's just great. Doesn't get much better than that, right? So I guess bouncing between all of these things, at least with Augustine, I get to see where all of this is going. That's where that kind of balances out these works on the seesaw, so to speak, between the Jewish side and the Christian side. He is like way in the future from where I am right now, but I get to understand the point at which we're headed towards, which is men just sitting down and thinking a lot about this, trying to understand, and thereby creating Western thought, which is what he is said to do. One of the reasons he is a saint. Another book that I have of his is The City of God, which I started to read, but then realized, wait, I should read the Bible first. And so, here we are. Thank you, as always, for joining the Non-Believer Bible Club. Today, we're going head first, elbows deep, into some serious laws. But if you're here like me, it must be because you find it as fascinating as I do. Here's St. Augustine's Confessions, by the way. Wonderful. 300 pages. God, I'm going to love digging into that. But first, join with me as we continue with Moses and the laws of the Lord. Chapter 27. And And thou shalt make an altar of shittim wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be 4 square, and the height thereof shall be 3 cubits. Page turn. And thou shalt make the horns of it upon the 4 corners thereof. His horns shall be of the same, and thou shalt overlay it with brass. And thou shalt make his pans to receive his ashes, and his shovels, and his basins, and his flesh hooks, and his fire pans. All the vessels thereof thou shalt make of brass. And thou shalt make for it a grate of network of brass, and upon the net shalt thou make 4 brazen rings, brazen rings, in the 4 corners thereof. And thou shalt put it under the compass of the altar beneath, that the net may be even to the midst of the altar. And thou shalt make staves for the altar, staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with brass. And the staves shall be put into the rings, and the staves shall be upon the 2 sides of the altar to bear it. Hollow with boards shalt thou make it, as it was shewed thee in the mount. So shall they make it. And by the way, this is the description of the altar of burnt offering with its vessels. This is presumably within the tabernacle, as described last episode. Whole lot of tabber, whole lot of knackle. Verse 9, the court of the tabernacle. And thou shalt make the court of the tabernacle. For the south side southward there shall be hangings for the court of fine twisted linen of 100 cubits long for one side, and the 20 pillars thereof, and their 20 sockets shall be of brass. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets shall be of silver. Listen, I just want everyone listening to this to know, it is my mission to speak every word of the King James Bible out loud. So this is my crusade, you could say. If it's not yours, there's no problem. And I'm definitely seeing this kind of stuff until about chapter 32. So I think I'm just gonna dunk all of this stuff into this episode. Yeah, it's a lot of directions. Lots and lots of directions. So, if it's not your thing, totally understand. But I'm barreling ahead. It's in this book. It was written in ancient Hebrew, translated into Greek, into Latin, and with King James, Elizabethan English. And I'm going to speak every word of it. This is my gift. This is my curse. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man. Verse 11. And likewise for the north side, in length, there shall be hangings of 100 cubits long. That an 100 cubits long. And his 20 pillars, and their 20 sockets of brass. The hooks and the pillars, and their fillets of silver. And for the breadth of the court on the west side shall be hangings of 50 cubits, their pillars 10, and their sockets 10. And the breadth of the court on the east side eastward shall be 50 cubits. The hangings of one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. Oh yeah, I didn't get to mention last time. So it makes sense. First of all, why are there these directions for the tabernacle? Well, God is supposed to dwell within the tabernacle, in the Holy of Holies, in the Ark of the Covenant, that area. That's where God is actually supposed to physically dwell. So basically, God is giving instructions for how he likes it, how he likes the pad to be set up. But this is because they don't have a temple. This is what necessitates building this complex structure that can be taken down. It has sockets and bolts and set up like an IKEA style temple do-it-yourself style, but this is why. Because they're in the middle of the desert, just walking around. I mean, right now they're at Sinai. And little do they know, Moses is going to come down from the mountain and be like, guys, great guy. You would not stop talking about this tabernacle. And I'm going to have to share with you all the sockets and sprockets and hooks and fillets of silver and brass. Maybe that's why they made the golden calf. Because the tabernacle instructions were so boring. They got bored before he could tell them. Nah. They make the golden calf because they have no character. Side note, after last time, I looked up some artist interpretations of the tabernacle. Pretty much exactly portrays what is being described. It's really fascinating to read this ultra-specific text. You can kind of get lost in it, lose the meaning a little bit, but then you actually see it, and it's like, oh, wow, these instructions are actually great. They're really good instructions. So it just looks like this. It's basically this compound that they're buying, and then the different rooms inside held up by curtains and pillars and brass connecting fasteners. It's wild. Okay, so please check that out. It's different when you see it. Verse 16. And for the gate of the court shall be an hanging of 20 cubits, of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework, and their pillars shall be 4, and their sockets 4. Wonder why blue and purple and scarlet. It's interesting. It's blue and scarlet, assuming red. Together, that's purple. So blue and red on one side, and then purple in the middle. Interesting. With the Trinity, maybe? No, Jewish tradition doesn't include the Trinity. That's a Christian thing. But it's interesting. All the pillars round about the court shall be filleted with silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their sockets of brass. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, and the breadth 50 everywhere, and the height 5 cubits of fine twined linen, and their sockets of brass. All the vessels of the tabernacle, in all the service thereof, and all the pins thereof, and all the pins of the court, shall be of brass. Now again, in my Bible, there's a little kind of scene headers describing what we're about to read. I normally just skip those since it becomes really redundant, but I think in this very direction-heavy, very non-narrative part of the Bible, things like that are going to help. So I'm just going to be saying these. So for this one, the oil for the lamp. Verse 20, and thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring thee pure oil, olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamp to burn always. It's olive oil, huh? In the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall order it from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever unto their generations on behalf of the children of Israel. Chapter 28. Aaron and his sons are set apart for the priest's office. And take thou unto thee Aaron thy brother, and his sons with him, from among the children of Israel, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office, even Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, Aaron's sons. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother for glory and for beauty. And thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate and an ephod, the definition of which being a sleeveless garment worn by Jewish priests in ancient Israel. Oh, that ephod. And a robe, and a broidered coat, a mitre, the definition of which being a tall headdress worn by bishops and senior abbots as a symbol of office, tapering to a point at the front and back with a deep cleft in between. So, a pope hat. Good. So, starting again at verse 4. And these are the garments which they shall make, a breastplate and an ephod, and a robe and a broidered coat, a mitre and a girdle. And they shall make holy garments for Aaron thy brother, and his sons, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. He sounds like the first pope. And they shall take gold and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen. The ephod. And they shall make the ephod of gold, of blue and of purple, of scarlet and fine twined linen with cunning work. Okay, this is literally starting to sound like the coat of many colors. It shall have the 2 shoulder pieces thereof joined at the 2 edges thereof, and so it shall be joined together. And the curious girdle of the ephod, which is upon it, shall be of the same, according to the work thereof, even of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine twined linen. And thou shalt take 2 onyx stones, and grave on them the names of the children of Israel, 6 of their names on one stone, and the other 6 names of the rest on the other stone, according to their birth. With the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be set in, okay, get this, ouches. An Old English word denoting cavities or sockets in which gems were set. And while we're stopped, I found out that it names onyx as the stone to be used because it's good for engraving, as opposed to diamonds or emeralds, things that they couldn't cut into. And second of all, should have been able to catch this. 6 of their names on one stone, and the other 6 names of the rest on the other stone. I was thinking, that's not enough names to cover everyone. But it is. 6 and 6. The 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, verse 11 again. With the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be set in ouches of gold. And thou shalt put the 2 stones upon the shoulders of the ephod for stones of memorial unto the children of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord upon his 2 shoulders for a memorial. And thou shalt make ouches of gold, and 2 chains of pure gold at the ends. All right. Some drip. Of wreathen work shalt thou make them, and fasten the wreathen chains to the ouches. The breastplate with 12 precious stones. I wonder why 12. And thou shalt make the breastplate of judgment. The breastplate of judgment. All right. With cunning work. After the work of the ephod, thou shalt make it. So similar to the work of the ephod. Or maybe they just mean after you're done with the ephod, make this. Of gold, of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, and of fine twined linen shalt thou make it. 4 it shall be, being doubled. A span shall be the length thereof, and a span shall be the breadth thereof. And thou shalt set in it settings of stones, even 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be a sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. This shall be the first row. And the second row shall be an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row, a liguri. Ah, Michael of the past, you were very close. It is, according to one YouTube video I've seen, ligure, a kind of lapis lazuli. So, verse 19. And the third row, a ligure, an agate, and an amethyst, and the fourth row a beryl, and an onyx, and a jasper. They shall be set in gold in their enclosings. This is like a crazy over-the-top infinity gauntlet, but it's a breastplate. So it's 12 stones. And the stones shall be with the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engravings of a signet. Every one with his name shall they be, according to the 12 tribes. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate chains at the ends of wreathen work of pure gold. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and shalt put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And the other 2 ends of the 2 wreathen chains thou shalt fasten in the 2 ouches. The ouches return. And put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod before it. And thou shalt make 2 rings of gold, and thou shalt put them upon the 2 ends of the breastplate in the border thereof, which is in the side of the ephod inward. And 2 other rings of gold thou shalt make, and shalt put them on the 2 sides of the ephod underneath, towards the forepart thereof, over against the other coupling thereof, above the curious girdle of the ephod. All these stones and golden hoops. I don't know if this sounds more like Marvel or Saint Laurent. Above the curious girdle of the ephod. Why is it so curious? Verse 28, and they shall bind the breastplate by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, that it may be above the curious girdle of the ephod, and that the breastplate be not loosed from the ephod. Yeah, I gotta secure that thing, man. Too many precious stones. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart. Yeah, okay, the breastplate of judgment. Breastplate of judgment trumps the infinity gauntlet, for sure. When he goeth in unto the holy place for a memorial before the Lord continually. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before the Lord. And Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. Okay, to Ellicott's commentary for English readers. Find out what Urim and Thummim, Urim and Thummim. Let's find out what that means. Thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim. The expression used is identical with that employed in Exodus 25:15 and Exodus 25:21 with respect to putting the 2 tables into the Ark of the Covenant, and can scarcely have any other meaning than the literal placing of one thing inside another. It has been already shown. See note on Exodus 28:16. What was that? 16 was, 4 square it shall be, being doubled. A span shall be the length thereof, and a span shall be the breadth thereof. That the breastplate was a bag. That's interesting. It's a purse. It's a man purse, a chest purse, and so capable of being used as a receptacle. The words Urim and Thummim mean literally lights and perfections. Or if the plural be one of dignity, light and perfection. The question arises, what do these 2 words, as here used, designate? Do they designate material objects? If so, what objects? In favor of their designating material objects are 1. The expressions, thou shalt put in the breastplate the Urim and the Thummim. They shall be upon Aaron's heart. He put the breastplate in the Urim and the Thummim. And 2. The fact that the words are accompanied by the article on this, the first mention of them, as if they were familiar objects, well known at the time to the people generally. And 3. The explanations of Philo and Josephus, my man Josephus, which, while they differ in all other respects, agree in this, that material objects are intended, but If so, what objects? The two sides of the breastplate, says Philo, but these were not put in the breastplate after it was complete. The 12 jewels, says Josephus, but the present passage, taken in conjunction with Exodus 28:17-21, distinguishes the Urim and Thummim from them. Some small objects which the bag of the breastplate could hold, and with which the people had been long familiar, can alone answer the requirements of the case. Most modern critics are thus far agreed, but when the further question is asked, what were these objects? The greatest difference appears. Diamonds, cut and uncut, slips of metal marked with yes and no, lots of some kind or other, and small images are among the suggestions. A very slight examination of the arguments by which these various views are supported is sufficient to show that certainty on the subject, is unattainable. Probability, however, seems on the whole to be in favor of a connection between divination by teraphim, small images or cult objects used as domestic deities or oracles by ancient Semitic peoples, and consultation of God by Urim and Thummim. Whence it is reasonable to conclude that the Urim and Thummim were small images by which God had been consulted in the past, and by which Moses was now authorized to state that he would be consulted in the future. How the consultation was made and the decision given is a question still more obscure than that which has been just considered, and one which seems to the present writer to admit of no solution. Well, that's all weird and fascinating. Although if it is some kind of divination, it says, the Urim and Thummim shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before the Lord, and Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. So if they're being used for divination, they're being used to show the will of the Lord. The result is the Lord's judgment, which he bears on his heart in the infinity baggie of judgment. The robe of the ephod and the plate of the mitre. And thou shalt make the robe of the ephod olive blue. All of it. Blue. Whole thing. Blue. And there shall be an hole in the top of it, presumably to wear. In the midst thereof, it shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it. And that's whole, H-O-L-E, not W-H-L-L-E. About the whole of it, as it were the whole of an habergeon, that it be not rent. That word is habergeon, H-A-B-E-R-G-E-O-N, a sleeveless coat of mail or scale armor, habergeon. And beneath, upon the hem of it, thou shalt make pomegranates of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, round about the hem thereof, and bells of gold between them round about. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate, upon the hem of the robe round about. Man, this is expensive. This is decadent. And it shall be upon Aaron to minister, and his sound shall be heard when he goeth in unto the holy place before the Lord, and when he cometh out, that he die not. Again, we go to Ellicott's. The great object of the bells was to make known to the people by a sensible manifestation every movement of their representative, every act that he performed on their behalf. The bells enabled them to follow in their thoughts the entire service that he was engaged in, to join their prayers and praises with his, and offer to God a common worship. So important was this union of priest and people in the worship of God regarded, that death was denounced on the high priest who should minister in the sanctuary without this essential garment. I see. So when you're preaching to that many people, you need... They gave him a little bell so that people can follow. Imagine that. So many people that you can't actually follow where the priest is. At least I suppose this is what they mean. Maybe this meant something completely different, or this refers to an alien technology that did not survive explanation to today. All right, I like this one. Verse 36, "And thou shalt make a plate of pure gold, and grave upon it, like the engravings of a signet, in all caps, holiness to the Lord." As if this wasn't explicitly clear already. Holiness to the Lord. This is some getup. "And thou shalt put it on a blue lace, that it may be upon the mitre. Upon the forefront of the mitre it shall be." So that's going to be on the hat, on the front of the Pope hat. Nice. So he's like wearing this Pope hat and bells and a gold. If not for the extravagance, this sounds like a practical joke. Like, hey, wear this thing on your head with a sign. What? I'm not going to do that. It's of pure gold. Oh, you're serious. "And it shall be upon Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things, which the children of Israel shall hallow in all their holy gifts. And it shall be always upon his forehead, that they may be accepted before the Lord. And thou shalt embroider the coat of fine linen, and thou shalt make the mitre of fine linen, and thou shalt make the girdle of needlework." Linen, needlework. How about, "And it shall be upon Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things"? Okay, check this out. So I thought the iniquity of the holy things was that it's kind of like an anti-idolatry kind of thing. Like, okay, we have all these insane vestments, and Aaron has to take upon himself that iniquity so that the people have an intelligible thing to help aid them in worship. But what it actually means, according to the pulpit commentary, is that imperfection attaches to everything that man does, and even the sacrifices that the people offered to God required to be atoned for and purified. So the iniquity of the sacred things is the imperfections of the people's offerings. It was granted to the high priest in his official capacity to make the necessary atonement and so render the people's gifts acceptable. For this purpose, he was invested with an official holiness, proclaimed by the inscription upon the plate, which exhibited him as the type and representative of that perfectly holy one, through whom alone can any real atonement be made to the Father. And the line, "It shall always be upon his forehead," meaning whenever he ministers. Man, I'm really turning to the commentary for this one, folks. Man, I was just thinking about that last verse. "And thou shalt embroider the coat of fine linen, and thou shalt make the mitre of fine linen, and thou shalt make the girdle of needlework." Like somebody wrote about how to make the clothes for someone to wear for a ceremony, and I'm reading this in 2022. Like, that's crazy. All right, verse 40. "The garments for Aaron's sons." They get some girdles too. "And for Aaron's sons, thou shalt make coats, and thou shalt make for them girdles, and bonnets shalt thou make for them, for glory and for beauty." Love it. Page turn. "And thou shalt put them upon Aaron thy brother, and his sons with him, and shalt anoint them, and consecrate them, and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt make them linen breeches to cover their nakedness. From the loins even unto the thighs they shall reach." Remember 2026, "Neither shalt thou go up by steps unto mine altar, that thy nakedness be not discovered thereon." Gotta make sure the priests got underwear. "And they shall be upon Aaron and upon his sons, when they come in unto the tabernacle of the congregation, or when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place, that they bear not iniquity and die. It shall be a statute forever unto him and his seed after him. Chapter 29. The ceremonies of consecrating the priests. And this is the thing that thou shalt do unto them to hallow them, to minister unto me in the priest's office. Take 1 young bullock, and 2 rams without blemish, and unleavened bread, and cakes unleavened, tempered with oil, and wafers unleavened, anointed with oil. Of wheaten flour shalt thou make them. And thou shalt put them into 1 basket, and bring them in the basket with the bullock and the 2 rams. And Aaron and his sons thou shalt bring unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and shalt wash them with water. And thou shalt take the garments, and put upon Aaron the coat, and the robe of the ephod, and the ephod and the breastplate, and gird him with the curious girdle of the ephod. And thou shalt put the mitre upon his head, and put the holy crown upon the mitre. Then shalt thou take the anointing oil, and pour it upon his head, and anoint him. And thou shalt bring his sons, and put coats upon them, and thou shalt gird them with girdles appropriate. Aaron and his sons, and put the bonnets on them, and the priest's office shall be theirs for a perpetual statute. And thou shalt consecrate Aaron and his sons. And thou shalt cause a bullock to be brought before the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron and his sons shall put their hands upon the head of the bullock. And thou shalt kill the bullock before the Lord, by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And thou shalt take of the blood of the bullock, and put it upon the horns of the altar with thy finger, and pour all the blood beside the bottom of the altar. So now we're getting like the official animal sacrifice ritual. And thou shalt take all the fat that covereth the inwards, and the caul that is above the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, and burn them upon the altar. But the flesh of the bullock, and his skin and his dung shalt thou burn with fire without the camp. It is a sin offering. So they have a specific designation for which part of the animal to burn as an offering. That's a good idea. You don't want to burn its dung. That does not sound like a good idea. So technically, in Billy Madison, when Adam Sandler and Norm Macdonald and that other fucking guy burned the bag of shit on that old guy's porch, that was a sin. That's your heritage, Sandler. Shame on you. I'm kidding. That's a great movie. Thou shalt also take 1 ram, and Aaron and his sons shall put their hands upon the head of the ram. And thou shalt slay the ram, and thou shalt take his blood and sprinkle it round about the altar. And thou shalt cut the ram in pieces, and wash the innards of him, and his legs, and put them unto his pieces, and unto his head. And thou shalt burn the whole ram upon the altar. It is a burnt offering unto the Lord. It is a sweet savor, an offering made by fire unto the Lord. And thou shalt take the other ram, and Aaron and his sons shall put their hands upon the head of the ram. Then shalt thou kill the ram, and take of his blood, and put it upon the tip of the right ear of Aaron, and upon the tip of the right ear of his sons, and upon the thumb of their right hand, and upon the great toe of their right foot, and sprinkle the blood upon the altar round about. And thou shalt take of the blood that is upon the altar, and of the anointing oil, and sprinkle it upon Aaron, and upon his garments, and upon his sons, and upon the garments of his sons with him, and he shall be hallowed, and his garments, and his sons' garments with him. So this is very interesting, because with these specific garments that we went through all the boring directions of how they should be positioned and all this, we understand now that they are corresponding with the jewels and all that, and then his investiture displayed by the golden sign on his head. We understand that Aaron's dress corresponds to the people of Israel, specifically representing them and giving Aaron a holiness, carry out rituals like these on behalf of the children of Israel. Anyway, this is all to say, this ritual is fucking crazy. This is totally worth all that boring shit to get to this. This is an ancient animal sacrifice ritual to consecrate the priests. So fascinating. Verse 22. Also, thou shalt take of the ram the fat and the rump, and the fat that covereth the inwards, and the caul above the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, and the right shoulder, for it is a ram of consecration, and 1 loaf of bread, and 1 cake of oiled bread, and 1 wafer out of the basket of the unleavened bread that is before the Lord. That sounds delicious. And thou shalt put all in the hands of Aaron, and in the hands of his sons, and shalt wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. A wave offering. I know it sounds like it's saying that Aaron will just wave it before the Lord, and that wave is part of the offering. That's because that's exactly what it's saying. That's a wave offering. He kind of waves it around in the air before the Lord. Wave offering. Quote, having placed the offerings on the hands of his brother and his brother's sons, Moses. Now, we haven't mentioned Moses, but technically this is all being dictated to Moses by God. So Moses is the one who will be enacting these things upon Aaron and his sons as described. Moses was to put his own hands beneath theirs and to make a waving motion towards the 4 quarters of the sky, thus presenting the offerings to the ubiquitous God. Aaron and his sons thus performed their first priestly act as passive instruments in Moses' hands by his muscular energy. Interesting addition, Ellicotts. His muscular energy, his swole energy. Their priestly character was by these means made complete. Wave offering. Verse 25. And thou shalt receive them of their hands, and burn them upon the altar for a burnt offering, for a sweet savor before the Lord. It is an offering made by fire unto the Lord. This is of the cakes. The loaf of bread and the cake of oiled bread and all that yummy sounding stuff. I'm hungry right now. Anyone else hungry? Talking about barbecuing animals and oiled bread and cakes and wafers. I know this is a holy ritual, but it sounds delicious. And thou shalt take the breast of the ram of Aaron's consecration, and wave it for a wave offering, wave, before the Lord, and it shall be thy part. And thou shalt sanctify the breast of the wave offering, and the shoulder of the heave offering which is waved, and which is heaved up, of the ram of the consecration, even of that which is for Aaron, and of that which is for his sons. And it shall be, okay, by the way, so I say this a lot, but whenever it says even in this old English vocabulary, the word even is like an affirmative signifier. Like this, yes, this. You can just replace it with yes, basically. Like him, even him. Yes, of that which is for Aaron, and of that which is for his sons. And it shall be Aaron's and his sons by a statute forever from the children of Israel, for it is an heave offering, and it shall be an heave offering from the children of Israel of the sacrifice of their peace offerings, even their heave offering unto the Lord. And the holy garments of Aaron shall be his sons after him, to be anointed therein, and to be consecrated in them. So that thing with the right hand and the right foot, and the blood, and the tip of the right ear, and the big toe, yeah, that's all happening again. And that son that is priest in his stead shall put them on 7 days, when he cometh into the tabernacle of the congregation to minister in the holy place. And thou shalt take the ram of the consecration, and seethe his flesh in the holy place. That's another way of saying boil in water. And Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram. Oh man, Now they are chowing down. And the bread that is in the basket by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And they shall eat those things wherewith the atonement was made, to consecrate and to sanctify them. Ah, I saw that coming. But a stranger shall not eat thereof, because they are holy. So the idea of this is that if you are God's servant, they are also making sure that whatever you eat is not going to de-sanctify you. You got to be kept in that state of being sanctified so you can only eat exactly what it is that God wants you to eat. And it looks like that's boiled ram. I hope they have some ancient garlic salt with that boiled ram. I mean, that probably tasted good. They were like eating flakes of nothing that fell from the sky before. I'm sure they're happy to have boiled ram. Verse 34, and if aught of the flesh of the consecrations or of the bread remain unto the morning, then thou shalt burn the remainder with fire. It shall not be eaten, because it is holy. If it's holy, no leftovers. And thus shalt thou do unto Aaron, and to his sons according to all things which I have commanded thee. 7 days shalt thou consecrate them. And thou shalt offer every day a bullock for a sin offering for atonement, and thou shalt cleanse the altar, when thou hast made an atonement for it, and thou shalt anoint it to sanctify it. 7 days thou shalt make an atonement for the altar, and sanctify it, and it shall be an altar most holy. Whatsoever toucheth the altar shall be holy. The continual burnt offering. Verse 38. Now this is that which thou shalt offer upon the altar. 2 lambs. Okay, so this is like the official, this is the animal sacrifice offering. 2 lambs of the first year, day by day, continually. Wow. The one lamb, there's just never-ending lamb sacrifice, eh? The one lamb thou shalt offer in the morning, and the other lamb thou shalt offer at even. And with the one lamb 1/10 deal of flour, mingled with the 4th part of an hin of beaten oil, and the 4th part of an hin of wine for a drink offering. I guess a hin is some kind of ancient Israelite unit of measurement. Aha, hin, a Hebrew unit of liquid capacity equal to approximately 5.5 quarts. Oh, that's not very small, is it? And the other lamb thou shalt offer at even, and shalt do thereto, according to the meat offering of the morning, and according to the drink offering thereof, for a sweet savor, an offering made by fire unto the Lord. This is crazy. This is how they would worship God with this ritual. I say crazy, I mean it in a good way. I don't mean to look down upon ancient rituals. This is fascinating. I feel like I made too much of a big deal about how boring this could be. So now they just got to the interesting stuff. How are they killing animals in order to glorify their God? Yeah, that's I want to know that. This is an area of interest for me. Verse 42, this shall be a continual burnt offering throughout your generations at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord, where I will meet you to speak there unto thee. And there I will meet with the children of Israel, and the tabernacle shall be sanctified by my glory. And I will sanctify the tabernacle of the congregation and the altar. I will sanctify also both Aaron and his sons to minister to me in the priest's office. And I will dwell among the children of Israel and will be their God. And they shall know that I am the Lord their God that brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, that I may dwell among them. I am the Lord their God. Fucking nice. Chapter 30, Directions for Making the Altar of Incense. Let's go. And thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon. Of, you guessed it, shittim wood shalt thou make it. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof. foursquare shall it be, and 2 cubits shall be the height thereof. The horns thereof shall be of the same. And thou shalt overlay it with, you guessed it, pure gold, the top thereof, and the sides thereof round about, and the horns thereof. And thou shalt make unto it a crown of gold round about. And 2 golden rings shalt thou make to it under the crown of it, by the 2 corners thereof. Upon the 2 sides of it shalt thou make it, and they shall be for places for the staves to bear it withal. And thou shalt make the staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put it before the veil that is by the ark of the testimony, that is also the ark of the covenant. Before the mercy seat that is over the testimony, where I will meet with thee. Whoa. And Aaron shall burn thereon sweet incense every morning. I like that. When he dresseth the lamps, he shall burn incense upon it. And when Aaron lighteth the lamps at even, he shall burn incense upon it, a perpetual incense. Always incense. Before the Lord throughout your generations. Forever. Incense forever. Yea, shall offer no strange incense thereon, nor burnt sacrifice, nor meat offering, neither shall ye pour drink offering thereon. So, that is only for the burning of incense, and the burning of incense only. And Aaron shall make an atonement upon the horns of it once in a year with the blood of the sin offering of atonements. Once in the year shall he make atonement upon it throughout your generations. It is most holy unto the Lord. The ransom of souls. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, When thou takest the sum of the children of Israel after their number, so census, when you take the census, then shall thou give every man a ransom for his soul unto the Lord. When thou numberest them, that there be no page turn. These pages are so thin. No plague among them, when thou numberest them. This they shall give, every one that passeth among them that are numbered, half a shekel, after the shekel of the sanctuary. A shekel is 20 gerahs, and half shekel shall be the offering of the Lord. Collection plate. And I thought that was a Christian thing. Every one that passeth among them that are numbered from 20 years old and above shall give an offering unto the Lord. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than half a shekel, when they give an offering unto the Lord, to make an atonement for your souls. And thou shalt take the atonement money of the children of Israel, and shalt appoint it for the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, that it may be a memorial unto the children of Israel before the Lord to make an atonement for your souls. So, there's a lot of reasons why this could be necessary. I mean, one of them is Aaron and his sons no longer have jobs. They now live in perpetuity to kill animals and light incense, burn some sage around the tabernacle. So they got to be taken care of. Stuff costs money. They got to make sure that they have the means to be able to continue these services for the Lord. But also general upkeep. There's like 32,000 of those little clothespins made out of metal holding up the different linens for the tabernacle at this point. Any one of those breaks, who's going to pay to get a replacement? So, all in all, makes sense to me. Verse 17, the brassen laver. And the Lord spake unto Moses, some more, saying, Thou shalt also make a laver of brass, and his foot also of brass, to wash withal, and thou shalt put it between the tabernacle of the congregation and the altar, and thou shalt put water therein. For Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet thereat. When they go into the tabernacle of the congregation, they shall wash with water, that they die not. Presumably, die because if they mess up any part of their job, they will be killed. Maybe another reason to compensate them with that half shekel, eh? And by the way, the word laver, a basin or similar container used for washing oneself, similar to the word lavatory. Laver in biblical usage, a large brass bowl for the ritual ablutions of Jewish priests. And for those of you that don't know, an ablution is a ceremonial act of washing parts of the body or sacred containers. Everything about Aaron and Aaron's sons' jobs now is about making sure that they are correctly cleansed to be able to handle the job of the priest while still being sanctified, or they die. Okay, verse 20 again. When they go into the tabernacle of the congregation, they shall wash with water, that they die not. Or when they come near to the altar to minister, to burn offering made by fire unto the Lord. So they shall wash their hands and their feet, that they die not, and it shall be a statute forever to them, even to him and to his seed, throughout their generations. The holy anointing oil. Moreover, the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Take thou also unto thee principal spices, of pure myrrh 500 shekels, and of sweet cinnamon half so much, even 250 shekels, and of sweet calamus 250 shekels, and of cassia 500 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary, and of oil olive and hin. So quarts of that. And thou shalt make it an oil of holy ointment, an ointment compound after the art of the apothecary. It shall be an holy anointing oil. So the deal is, once you are anointed with the anointing oil, you are made holy in order to do something. That is actually what Christ means, anointed one who has been anointed, blessed, holy. And thou shalt anoint the tabernacle of the congregation therewith, and the ark of the testimony, and the table and all his vessels, and the candlestick and his vessels, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all his vessels, and the laver and his foot. And thou shalt sanctify them, that they may be most holy. Whatsoever toucheth them shall be holy. That's interesting that they anoint things by pouring like a sweet-smelling oil on it. And thou shalt anoint Aaron and his sons. Yeah, they're getting the juice too. And thou shalt anoint Aaron and his sons, and consecrate them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, This shall be an holy anointing oil unto me throughout your generations. I'm just smelling that. Again, I am hungry, but olive oil, cinnamon, some of that myrrh, that just sounds good. Throw that shit over some chicken. Verse 32, Upon man's flesh shall it not be poured, neither shall ye make any other like it, after the composition of it. It is holy, and it shall be holy unto you. Whosoever compoundeth any like it, or whosoever putteth any of it upon a stranger, shall even be cut off from his people. Whoa. The last time he was talking about that, he was talking about, circumcision. Not trying to make a joke. He says, those who do not offer themselves up to be circumcised shall be cut off from my people. So, putting the holy cinnamon, myrrh, olive oil concoction upon a stranger is as good as not getting circumcised. Interesting. I'm glad to know where God stands on all of this. Verse 34, and the Lord said unto Moses, take unto thee sweet spices, stacte, and onycha, and galbanum, these sweet spices, with pure frankincense. Of each shall there be a like weight, and thou shalt make it a perfume, a confection after the art of the apothecary, tempered together, pure and holy, more nice smelling stuff. And thou shalt beat some of it very small, and put of it before the testimony in the tabernacle of the congregation, where I will meet with thee. It shall be unto you most holy. Yeah, that's going right where God appears, in the Holy of Holies. And as for the perfume which thou shalt make, ye shall not make to yourselves according to the composition thereof. It shall be unto thee holy for the Lord. Whosoever shall make like unto that, to smell thereto, shall even be cut off from his people. Wow. Can't make the nice perfume. Can't make the olive oil of the gods. Can't not get circumcised. The Trinity. Chapter 31. Bezaleel and Aholiab are called for the work of the tabernacle. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, see, I have called by name Bezaleel the son of Uri, the son of Hur of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God in wisdom, and in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship, to devise cunning works, to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass, and in cutting of stones, to set them, and in carving of timber, to work in all manner of workmanship. And I, behold, I have given with him Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan. And in the hearts of all that are wise-hearted I have put wisdom, that they may make all that I have commanded thee. The tabernacle of the congregation. Okay, yeah, so truly none of this stuff has been made yet. This is just the plan. The tabernacle of the congregation, and the ark of the testimony, and the mercy seat that is thereupon. Mercy seat is like, it's the lid. I haven't mentioned that once, but there it is. The tabernacle of the congregation, and the ark of the testimony, and the mercy seat that is thereupon, and all the furniture of the tabernacle. Yeah, there's quite a lot of furniture. That's right. And the table and all his furniture. These pronouns with the furniture. And the pure candlestick with all his furniture, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all his furniture, and the laver and his foot, and the cloths of service, and the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons to minister in the priest's office, and the anointing oil, and sweet incense for the holy place, according to all that I have commanded thee, shall they do. The observation of the Sabbath is commanded again. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily, my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you. Ye shall keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy unto you. Every one that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. Cut! 6 days may work be done, but in the 7th is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations, for a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, And on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of God. And here, at last, we shall end our reading for today. Wow. So much to unpack, I barely know where to begin. Except that through all my little jokes and asides, I think I was able to communicate at least what I was thinking as I was reading it. But taking it as a whole, I think one of the more interesting things is that it ended with the reminder of the Sabbath day, calling back Genesis, always. On the seventh day, he rested. This being one of the more important, tenets, rules, motifs, metaphors, constantly repeating, constantly repeated. Another note, very different writing style, as you can tell. This is definitely the priestly source, if you believe in that kind of thing. Even Bible scholars are split upon who wrote what. But this sounds to me like a bunch of priests getting together being like, okay, what are all the rules? What are the measurements? Get them all down. Less story, more instruction. I guess if I had to boil it all up or seethe it all up, what you have here is specific instructions for a temple made on the fly in the middle of the desert, portable. Remember, everything has rings and staves so that you can carry it, portable to the max. But the thing that I like the most is the idea that you have a race of people and the way that they worship God is not only with these specific measurements and specific things. I mean, the order of it is very OCD satisfying to me. But essentially, the bulk of their worship is safely and sanitarily killing animals and burning parts of them, making perfume, mixing together cinnamon and olive oil, and walking around leading a caravan worth of your people in rituals for the glory of God, wearing a suit with precious stones, bells, and a golden plate saying, "I am holy," hanging from your forehead. I had no idea, but this is exactly what I got into this religion for in the first place. Don't pour the oil. Don't burn the incense. Don't not get circumcised. Thanks for hanging out, my creeping things. See y'all next time.